Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your number one soccer podcast in the land. This is Pass and Move, and I'm your host, Happymore. Today I've got a special guest, but before that, you always know it's probably brought to you by Ibenaya Foods, our number one sponsor, and Ocean Design. They've been with us when we started, actually, from the first day. Today, as I said before, I've got a very special guest all the way from the capital, the Midlands capital of the country. He's a soccer. I'll let the kid out of the big. He's one of the renowned soccer agents in the country, and we want to talk about the whole industry of soccer agents, because we've heard so many stories about soccer agents. They were not here before, they were not in the game before, but they are slowly crippling into the game. And in the country, unfortunately, we only have, last time I checked, with 11 accredited FIFA soccer agents. My brother Happy, you've got so many names. I don't know which one should I call you. Because when people Google, they will Google Happymore. But which one? Because I know you as Donso, I know you as Datenda. Which one do you prefer?
Thank you, Archie, and thank you so much for giving me this lovely platform, so that we can talk about football agency and the agency business in the country and beyond. With regards to my name, for today we will start with the professional name. The professional name is Happymore Chayire. That's my given name. That's on my ID. That's the professional name also appearing on the license as well. But Tatenda is African homes. You can't always carry one name.
I have one.
You have one name.
Yeah.
Ugogo wants an easier name. So it's like Happy and let's just have a middle name, Tatenda. So at home, Tatenda is more popular, and obviously the street names, with Amajens, the friends,
come with
with the work and stuff like that. But Happymore Chayire is the name.
Yeah, if you Google, as I said, in the country only 11 accredited. Is it still 11? Or?
It's not only 11. We are now creating. I'm made to understand that there are two more gentlemen who passed their exams in the recent exam.
Okay.
Maybe perhaps I can actually give you a brief background to the numbers. Yes.
Yeah.
There used to be 5 prominent names that will always go around: Gibson Mahachi, George Deda, Tenford Mtashu, Lindela Chuma, Sengwe, and a couple of other guys. So what then happened is they used to get into the business through some form of registrations that they would do with the associations, and then they would marry it with FIFA, and then they were accredited agents of some sort. Then
this is when, sorry to cut you off, this is when, because I think we've known Mahachi.
Yes, that's how they've existed, long before in the industry. I think it was only 5 guys going back into the 90s, or maybe perhaps the 80s, because some of the players that he talks about when I'm with him, Mahachi. It's players that I used to see on TV when I was like a little kid. We used to hear that so and so forth. They've gone to Poland or they've gone to Belgium. He has managed, the majority of those players that have moved abroad in the older times. So then when FIFA introduced the exam pathway of getting into football agency, I think there was one guy who passed the initial exam, is story, and there was another edition as well. And then in my class, it was 4 guys who passed. I think we were over 16 candidates. The previous class had over 30 candidates. My class had 4, and then
24.
Yeah, only 4 people who passed. But that's actually the highest number of all the classes, because from every class it's always been one or two. So my class had the highest number. Then we came to 11 by last year, 2024, when I wrote mine in November. And then eventually the 2 from the 2025 exam. So in the previous years, there used to be 2 exams per year, but now there's only 1 year in the middle of the year. Yeah, they used to have one sometime in April, May, and then another one in November. But then they just, said that nah, we just gonna give 1 exam per year. Yes.
How does this process come about? Because if only you could now, you said two more years.
Make them 13 years.
So it's 13.
Yes.
How does the process come about for one to participate?
Okay. So the process for anyone to become a football agent is, is really an easy process. I think,
but it seems it's gatekept, because if a country with more than 12 million people only have 13 accredited.
But I'll tell you what, I actually feel that 13 is quite a big number. Not that I'm trying to keep the business to ourselves, but there are implications and connotations to the business of agents in space. You only get to really do serious business twice a year, like when those windows are open and stuff like that. And for a lot of people who might not really appreciate what it takes to be an agent, they might get there and end up being frustrated because of the nature of the business. So it's like, okay, so I really don't make money all year round, because it's not like I've got 18 checkies in a year, you know what I mean? It could be 1 player in 2 years. It could be 2 players in 1 window. It could be nothing, at the end of the day, because business is centered on moving, players, either between clubs locally or internationally, where normally there is, a little bit of value. But to explain the process, to say like why is it? It seems like there was some kind of gatekeeping. I think it's because of the transition from the initial method, where one used to become an agent, and the current, exam pathway that has now been, introduced or reintroduced by FIFA. It has made it possible for almost everyone to enter the space. Because previously, what they required some, clearances in regards to, your criminal record, your past and everything. They also wanted to see your finances, to see like, do you have this much amount of money. There was a figure, a huge figure, yes. And even to the association itself, I think you needed to pay something between 1,000 to 2,000 US dollars. It was so difficult, for someone to pay that amount of money, and then also need something that's remaining in your account as proof of funds. Because the previous agents, they used to work like managers. Like when we go to music, it's your cheapers, right? Cheapers promotes an artist, and then they get profit along the way. That was the traditional method of football agency, where you identify a young boy from Kokoba or from Mkoba, from Ascot. Yes, he doesn't have boots, he doesn't have socks, he doesn't have all this equipment that he needs, he doesn't have bus fare to attend training sessions and everything. So you would invest in that young boy, and you would keep receipts, And then when that boy now has been signed on by Dynamos or by Orlando Pirates or by whatever, the first port of call is to recoup all the money that you spent on this young boy. So what will then happen is that they'll then get taken advantage of. There'll be falsification, because eventually when this young boy makes it to Orlando Pirates and there's a big check that is coming in, the manager will then say, what? I used to even give you these other monies that I didn't account for. I would give you these random monies and everything. So FIFA, moved in to regulate the space in regards to that, and a bunch of other issues that were coming out as well. It wasn't just about that, but a lot of issues that were happening, even the inflation of agency fees. I think you've read the issues of Paul Pogba, his then agent, Mino Raiola, how players would be denied moves to other clubs because the clubs can't pay the fee that's being demanded by the agent, because the agent would just invoice a huge fee out of the blue to say, okay, my agency said these fees are going to be 15 million in this deal, or something like that. So FIFA moved in to try and regulate. So now, on the pathway aspect now, because of this exam that even has, I'm just a boy, you can see, I go up.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. You're not a boy, but we'll get you just have a baby face. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. So now, they say you take an exam. So now you can just register your profile. You go on FIFA.agents.com. You register your profile there any time of the year.
There's no longer the issue of bank balances and stuff.
The issue of bank balance doesn't suffice anymore, but criminal records, yes, they still because yes.
Yeah.
So now you register your profile online from wherever you are, country of domicile. If you're in South Africa, if you're in Zimbabwe, you register free of charge, by the way. You register your profile. So on your profile, that's where you will be checking. Because they will announce, the period, the application period, to say, okay, for the next exam, now we're talking about the 2026 exam, there's going to be an application period for, I think, almost like 2 months or something like that. I'm not too sure anymore. When you apply, you put in your application on the portal that you registered already.
On the profile side, yeah.
Yes, the profile that you've created, Now, when you apply, they will do some, background checks against your name. Okay. Maybe it's just a random Facebook check or an Interpol database check or whatever, just to flag you in some way. If there is something that you have done, we'll find out some way, somehow. So that's what they do. They take that period to just check, who's this person and stuff like that, and then they approve you to sit for the exam. So when they approve to sit for the exam now, that's when they will say. Like in my case, it was still the exam was still taken under the administration of FIFA, our football motherboard in the country. Yeah. So what it meant is we actually had to travel from the different places where we are, whether you're coming from Blawayo, where you have to meet in Harare at a center, at an exam center on a particular date and time, and then you sit for an exam. It's an online exam. It's given there. The questions are populated online. You log in. It's a 1 hour long exam, 20 questions, covers multiple choice.
Covering the whole aspect of the game.
Yes, it covers all aspects of the game, especially in regards to to transfers. For example, how do you transfer minors? There are rules that govern the transfer of minors, and then there are rules that govern the transfer of senior adult players, and a whole bunch of regulations that are there. We even learn about how to compensate the clubs, the academies where these young kids come from.
That's the developmental fee.
Yes, what we call the developmental fee, and a whole bunch of other aspects.
There's a lot. We've touched on so many things that I want to ask.
Yes.
But firstly, after maybe you have taken the example, but they've done background checks and all that, we are now a FIFA accredited. There's a whole lot of legal issues regarding. And we also touched on the issue of manager and agent.
Yes.
What's the difference there? Because why I'm asking this, you hear a player saying, I've got a manager.
Yes.
Then we hear another player saying, I've got an agent.
Yes.
What's the difference between the two? And then also the legal part we'll get into that when we clarify the difference now between the manager and the agent.
Okay. So now there is nobody else who is allowed to represent a player apart from an agent in terms of transactions, or unless the player waivers, the right to an agent and says, I want to represent myself in a football transaction. We call them transactions. Those negotiations and the subsequent, transfer of the money that's paid. We call it a transaction in agency language. So only a player can represent themselves or an agent. An agent is the person who sent for the exam. They pass the exam, the FIFA accredited exam online, sit for it. When they pass, they pay $600 license fee, and they renew their license every year, $300 US.
So when you are now in Argent, you no longer sit for the exam, you just renew.
Yes, you no longer sit for the exam. But what you do is you do what we call CPDs. CPDs are continuous professional development, programs or aspects.
That's self-improvement.
Yes, self-improvement, like to just ensure that you are keeping sharp, you are keeping up to date, because especially in the football world, there are a lot of regulation changes at any particular time. We're normally informed by things that happen in the industry. Yes. So FIFA reacts to that and puts in stuff. So you have to do different courses, but in your first year you are not mandated to do anything. Like now for myself, my license is due for renewal by the end of this month. I have to pay $300, but I won't be required to have completed any CPD points, because I have to earn points by doing the extra courses. It could be about kids, minors. It could be about players. Whatever, we always find information in certain sections where we go and we then pass those CPDs. But CPDs are now different because it's just something that's self-paced. It's not like the exam where you read and you have to write an exam between a specified time and all that. CPDs are just self-paced development, programs that you then do. But for me, in the first year of my license, I'm not required to fulfill any CPD requirements. It's only from the second year moving forward that's when I need to refresh. Improve myself. Now, what you asked about the difference between the agent and the manager now. Remember, I said the agent does all those things. They obtain a license, they maintain the license. It has to be there. It has to be verified. If I'm speaking to a parent who wants me to represent their child in a transaction, they have to see first that I'm an agent. So there is a license that we get, and they can show them.
Is it easy, maybe, to check like? When I was checking the agencies, the information is right there online. Your names are just like they.
Yes, like if you go onto the FIFA website, there is a list of football agents there as well. Then the agents themselves, they carry a license that's on their phone. It's a downloadable picture with a QR code where anyone can scan, and then it leads them to the FIFA website, and then they can actually see in real time that this person's license is active, it's suspended, or it's barred, or whatever. So parents, players, anyone who's interested in verifying can. Now, on the manager's aspect, what used to happen back in the day is player or between or anything. So they would say, in any class, I don't want anything to do with the contracts or anything. You take your foot in, I just want to play.
Get the brother or the sister does not have any knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like in my dad's case, when my dad was approached by a club back in the days, it was Sekuru and Mbuya, the grandparents, my grandparents, who were approached, and they said no because they didn't understand what this whole bunch of football was all about and what were the implications and everything. They simply said no, and my dad then failed school, but that opportunity is gone. The agent who came after him, then he's gone. The scouts, they are gone because they've been noticed.
They're in the business, they're looking for someone else.
They're looking for someone, so if they don't find someone, they move on to the next talent. Stuff like that. So with managers now, that's where the aspect to say either it was family or friends or anyone, your drinking buddies. I get a contract to South Africa, I carry along my drinking buddies, they were going to live with me in my flat and everything. They are my managers, they are my agents. I go with them to whatever signing ceremony or anything that is there. When the money comes, they've got access to the money and stuff like that. Then the other managers were people who tried to hide behind the professional shield of saying, I want to guide you professionally.
Okay.
Like what I said in the music, you've got your promoters. Right?
Yeah.
Normally, those are the guys that are closest to the language that I speak. They are your promoters that identify that, there is a talented young man, who can play, who can jam, who can sing, or something like that. And I can make money out of this young boy. But at this particular moment, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have, drum sets, he doesn't have equipment, he doesn't have a proper band or anything. They take over, the management of that young boy or that young talent.
Yeah.
And they sometimes even pour in their own money. They put in their own funds or their own coffers because it's an investment.
Yeah.
So later now, when when a young boy makes it or they bloom or they are successful, the first port of call, that person wants to get their profit.
Yeah.
They are in it for the money mostly.
So,
but the challenge now is in football now. Those people cannot represent you if any dispute arises between your club or anything because they are not recognized professionally.
Yes.
Your brother cannot go to Ivan Koza and say, Ivan Koza, you haven't paid my cousin from transferring
so
Yes. Ivan Koza will say, I don't know you. You know what I mean? Not to say that's how Ivan Koza behaves, but I'm saying these are the rules of the game. Because any random person can come and say, I represent Teko Motise, I represent, Israel Minyandoro or anything.
I'm following you. I think it's very clear. So now, in the manager's case,
yes,
it's not in the FIFA setup.
Yes.
It's just the agent.
It's just the agent.
So,
yes.
Holistically, the agent is the manager, is everything in this case. So this issue of a manager and an agent is not there professionally.
Yes, professionally it's not there, but it might exist in the in the industry. It could be your case, Ajit, to say is like you've got a couple of boys that and these boys can play.
No, what I want us to get it. Just to clarify and so that the viewers can see that there's a difference between an agent and a so-called manager.
The manager is not there.
Yeah.
He's a fictitious character to say.
That's what I wanted to say.
Oh, that's what you wanted to understand. He's
Yeah.
a fictitious character because that person, if anything happens tomorrow, they don't face any consequences.
It's not recognized.
They don't. Yes, they are not recognized. They've got nothing to lose. So they can disappear like from operating in Bulawayo and they will start another operation in Mtare because peace.
Yes. So this is a teachable moment to our viewers and
yes.
also to the player.
Yes.
I think we need seminars for such things because we have so many problems in the game. Whereby you hear someone saying I've got a man. That's why I was worried when I heard that there are only 11 accredited agents in the country.
Yes.
But there are so many people saying I've got a manager, I've got a man. So I did not. I wanted to find out.
Oh, now I understand where you're saying,
yeah.
But how come you're saying there are only guys that maybe perhaps we don't even know about?
Yeah.
But a lot of players are came managers and
yes.
Yeah, that's normally the case. Because what happens is, I want to be honest, sometimes when these players emerge, they emerge from spaces where we don't come from. Spaces where we do not have access or we do not have reach. And along the way, he gets someone who guides him or who helps him or assists him.
And that person is not even
some
accredited.
way. It's not accredited.
Yes.
Right? But what then happens is that when it gets to the professional level now,
yes.
when now the move is happening to South Africa, to Europe,
even locally,
to Asia.
I think even locally, people need to be educated about this. This is a very important subject.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are now issues that are emanating.
Yes.
And mostly when things are flowing, when we're signing deals and everything, it could be okay. Because one other thing that we have is also our league in terms of ensuring that people are represented by bona fide people. That's not the case.
It's not, yes.
Yes. We also have got clubs that are allowing in people to come with whoever is holding their hand and claiming to be
the manager or
the agent of the player. So problems will now happen when we are moving to more advanced and more professional setups, right? Or when something happens.
Because at the end of the day, you know what, we need to professionalize the game, especially in Zim. That's why we've got so many problems.
True.
Yeah.
True. And it's not like I'm speaking just because I want to benefit because I'm an agent. Yeah. Anyone can be an agent.
Yes.
We are also inviting those that want. I personally, I mentor people to become football agents if they want. They can have my WhatsApp number. They call me. They talk to me. I can walk through them. The exam process. What kind
but
of
it's not like the exam is easy.
Yeah, it's definitely. We've had classes of more than 30 people. Only having 2 people or 4 people pass. Even in Europe, it's not just in Zim. Yeah. It's a very difficult asset to obtain. But what I'm saying is, we are also inviting people that want to come into this space. But we are saying, let us all be professionals.
Exactly.
Just like when we talk of driving, to say anyone who wants to drive, a car on the Zimbabwean roads, they must obtain their what? Their license. And they can drive without anyone asking where are they going?
I get you.
All of us, we don't even bother to say it's like, Ntashu, Nasu, we just say, players are or anything. Whatever that they want with their players, they hope they're part of the agency, business, and all that. But let us be professionals at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Because we want to safeguard everyone. Yeah. As the agents, the players, the clubs, the sponsors, and everything, so that we don't have these issues that then start emanating to say, can a political crisis? Or a manager like Indiana, I don't know, reported a case to FIFA or who can help him, have settle issues in the club. They are gone because they were concerned with the deal, they were concerned with the check.
They wanted just to take the money and bounce.
Yes.
Actually, I think this is a very interesting thing. You're opening me up, my brother.
Yeah.
I did not know this space like that. But now, when it comes to player representation, because we wanted to touch the issue of legal, I wanted us first to differentiate between a manager and an agent.
Yes.
And I know there is also a legal representative.
Yes.
Lawyers in this case.
Yes.
How does that work now? Works between you as an agent and the lawyer, or you do that yourself?
Okay. So basically, what happens in this case now? I am now an agent, right? I've passed my exam and everything. I have obtained my license. I'm now recognized as an agent. So what I can do is, I can either operate as an agent, just alone, as an agent, represent, myself, move around by myself and everything, or I can work for an agency, or I can establish an agency. Like in the case where I now have what is called Kaya Sports Consultancy.
Nice.
So Kaya Sports Consultancy now is my company, it's my agency.
Okay.
So what I can do within my agency now, I have to realize that this is a professional setting where also there are HR issues, there are legal issues relating to the players that I manage, right?
Yeah.
The other STPs themselves, basically the rules and what for the transfer of players and something like that. The document or the written material, right?
Yeah.
Sharpens me just got legal aspects. Yes, there is some legal framework to say like, okay, if there is a dispute, right? As an agent, how do you handle certain disputes? Or how do you seek redress for your player between the club and FIFA? FIFA has got dispute resolution mechanisms or chambers.
That's
where we launch in complaints, and sometimes you hear that certain clubs have been banned from transfers or all that because they didn't pay players or anything. The agent or the player would have reported. So these are the legal reporting frameworks that are there, right? Yes. So I won't be in a position to go through case by case, referring built-in cases for. I can employ a lawyer who works for the agents. You understand?
Yeah.
Yes. I can employ or I can hire on an interim basis. But what we then also want to do is then to have these lawyers have an appreciation in sport, an appreciation in the game. So you also find out FIFA is now even offering some courses and certificates that you can take in Cairo, in South Africa.
You guys,
where the lawyer now can also go there, because remember the lawyer will act under my instructions, under my interpretation of whatever laws have been breached, right? From the agent's perspective, right? The present to says like, okay, can you please write us a letter of complaint or whatever, citing paragraph whatever of these laws that have been breached by this club against our player. Okay. But what we can also do is for the lawyer now to have appreciation. To say if we just tell the player we are dealing with an issue of non-payment, the lawyer themselves can actually craft a document without consulting me.
Sorry, can I kind of?
Okay. Stick to it. Dad. Yeah, because we have to teach, especially maybe the viewers and the players themselves.
Yeah,
because this knowledge is scarce.
Definitely.
But this are people that they don't know about.
Because even it makes it easier for me now, for even people, players to approach me, because there's that animosity. They don't know what I do. They don't know why I'm there. You know. So everyone, even like you can even ask me later about how do we engage players.
I was going to that after we've clarified.
Yeah, so what would happen is we would actually travel from all those different places, right?
Yeah.
From Gweru, Blawayo,
wherever you are.
Yes, and we would go to a center. You know, Zifa would arrange a center for us. You know, a place where we have Wi-Fi, because apparently it's an online exam.
Yeah.
You know. So we would go there with our gadgets, our laptops, and everything, and then we populate in one room. And we log in onto our portals, and we go to the exam section. And so what then happens that the questions they are populated in the system there,
okay,
by FIFA. And the funny thing is, you can be seated next to me, but we'll be having different questions.
so no one can copy it.
Yes, because what happens is, like, we've got this booklet that we are given, almost 700 pages of reading material prior to the exam. So when you register online, there is a section that shows, like, reading material, mock exam, where you can even take the mock exam as many times as you can before.
That's how you prepare.
How you prepare for that exam. So you actually be self-evaluating and pacing yourself against the time, because there are 20 questions, right?
Okay.
So on average, I think on each question you take about 3 minutes.
Okay.
And you have to pass 15 of those. 15 and above for you to be considered to have passed the exam. Then obviously,
how then now to one fail after you've been given that booklet?
Oh, the funny thing I'd actually forgotten to mention is that it's an open book exam, where you are allowed to also even refer to the reading material within the exam.
Come on.
So that PDF 700 pages, you can print it out, and then you go with your physical copy of the reading material to the exam. Or if you are a computer geek like myself, not too much, but a little bit, you can refer, you can search through.
Okay.
So when they talk about minors, you can just type minors, and you see all the information that comes about minors, and you compare against the question that you've been given. So it's an open book. The invigilator will just be seated there. They don't even move around,
So how does one fail if it's that situation?
The tricky part is the time. And also if umuntu has been studying, has been reading, because complacency. I got my reading material, I think almost like is it 5 months prior to the before, because the thing is, I had attempted to write in because when I wrote there were still 2 exams. So I had attempted to write the first exam of the year, which came sometime in May. But then I had happened to travel to Dubai. Okay. So I would land tonight and have to take the exam tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I felt I wasn't like properly,
you're not ready. Yeah.
And I wasn't ready. But even all this time when I was traveling, when I was flying, when I was connecting my flights in Rwanda, I would be on my laptop and I'd be reading that, PDF,
just preparing yourself.
Just preparing myself, even when I was in the UAE. And then I didn't write. But I continuously, read, paced myself, took the mock exam, benchmarked myself in the, in the 18s, 19s, 20, up until I was confident enough to take the exam.
You were ready. Yeah.
So when it came in November, I had peers come in with these large volumes of printed out.
Were you not surprised?
Well, for a moment. But I then told myself, like, Tate, you've been studying, so there is no need for you to panic because you see someone with a voluminous, material and stuff like that. Like how it happened in high school when the boys who were doing AMA sciences were the ones who were carrying this thing.
But most of us in high school were cramming anyway.
Yeah, and also. You need to know. You need to internalize.
Yeah, you should know your stuff.
Because these are now things that you will deal with in your everyday life as a football agent.
Yeah.
So it's not just about passing the exam, because I need to apply these things on a daily basis.
Yeah, I get you.
When I see a minor who's talented in the street, Ashita Majagos again, everything, I need to know how I approach that minor.
How you deal with
I deal with that minor, how I approach the parents when ndaona mwana wenyu. They was waona mwana wedu pai. Hey, who gave you permission to speak to my child? And
so you need to know all.
Yes. So all this reading material, this 700 and whatever,
cited in the
pages,
booklet.
It's there. Almost there are different sections, even the legal aspects of the game, how to represent your players in disputes, when disputes arise between clubs and players, or between the owning clubs, and all these cases that are coming in, the Ribeiro case and all that. All those things, they are taught in the reading material.
I get. Is this still the case now that everyone has to go to Harare for the exam? Or?
No. The good thing is, FIFA, is constantly, changing, its ways of doing things, even the regulations themselves and all that. So they've tried to make it comfortable for everyone to, to have access. Because someone might be in Binga or Gay, someone might, and they can't travel to sit for the exam. Yeah. So now, the good thing is that now you can take the exam online. So the mother association is no longer the middleman that used to administer the exam.
Yes.
So now, once you register and you're approved and you pay your fee to take the exam, and then you wait at home, you just have to have your stable internet connection. You have to have your 2 gadgets, your laptop and your monitoring device, whether it's a phone, it's a
invigilating
camera, so that you can be invigilated. Remote
through the monitor.
Yes, through your own. So it's your own setup.
Yeah, okay.
At home, no need for you to pay the exam fee that we used to pay at Zifa for them to host us.
Yes.
But now you're just paying everything to FIFA.
Nice.
So it's now become easier. Accessible. So even if you are a Zimbabwean resident in South Africa, you can take your exam there.
Online. Now I get it. It's more simpler. Then, Tade, I wanted to find out the difference between an agent, a manager, then there is also a legal aspect of it. Whereby maybe a lawyer is representing a player maybe for a dispute. What's the difference between these 3 people?
Okay. So I will first begin by once again reiterating the agent. So once you have passed your exam, then you pay your license fee. So your initial license fee is $600.
Okay.
$600 that you pay online and everything, and then you receive your license online, your approval. Now you can operate as an agent, right?
Okay.
So now, when you can operate as an agent, either you can be a singular agent, like me, to say I just walk around and say I'm an agent.
This is
I'm
what I
solo,
do.
yeah, this is what I do.
Yeah.
Right? Or I can work for an agency, or I can establish an agency
Yourself.
Yes. So to establish an agency is to sit down and say, like, now I've got a business. Then I registered formally. Like, I've got Kaya Sports Consultants.
That's your agency.
That's my agency.
Oh,
yes.
okay, nice.
So it's a Zimbabwean registered company. And then me as an agent, I'm registered in England. I'm registered in the Netherlands. I'm registered in Australia, South Africa.
Basically, the certificate allows you to be
operate
registered
anywhere
in any way.
FIFA member associations. But
so
now
nice.
what you can do is for you to maybe get an ID or a badge for that particular league or that particular association, you speak to them directly.
I hope there is no example. Too many.
Now it's your principal license, the one that you have from FIFA.
Yeah.
So you are just self-introducing to say, my name is Happy from Zimbabwe. I'm a FIFA licensed agent, but I also wish to operate in the UK. So what do I do? Then they'll say, can you show us the proof that you are a
FIFA
accredited and licensed agent?
Yeah.
Then you send them a copy via email, easy steps, and then they'll tell you what to do. And then you've got your digital license. Like for the UK, the FA gives you a digital license. You just download and then you upload your picture on it. So on my phone, I can just show you that I am allowed to operate in England. Then for other countries, they just fill out forms, like in the Netherlands, like in Australia. Then in South Africa, it was just a matter of sending my license, and then they said, like, yeah, we're going to put you on our register. But it all now is from country to country now.
It depends. Okay.
But now, that license now gives me the opportunity or the leeway or the legal authority to move around and identify players and sign them up and represent them in transactions. So, like football discussions, yes, we like when we are discussing a player's move from club A to B, we call it a transaction, whether it's local or it's international or stuff like that. Now, coming to the issue of managers, it's an issue of it's a bone of contention, for the longest time ever. So managers existed
because we hear so many players saying, "I've got a manager," but when we look into
the agents are within the country,
only see 11. You get the point.
Yes, and when you compare maybe the list
agents
by FIFA and the name that this one is saying,
does not tally.
Yeah. So now the issue of managers. It's an issue that has been existing from a long time ago. Why? Managers were basically more like your promoters, like when it goes to, the music circles, where you have your chippers and whatever, how they operate. But they identify talent, maybe in the rural areas where we do not have reach or we might not have been privileged to have access to. So they find these youngsters, and then they can maybe buy them a pair of boots, socks, sheens, and they stick around with that kid with the hope that maybe one day kid will go to Bulawayo and sign for Highlanders or to Harare and sign for Dynamos or
like
something.
the case of this young man, this case that we've been bothering between Highlanders and Scotland and Ajax Football Club and also Mafios.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now the manager doesn't have any legal authority, because these are people who act like investors. They are always looking out for profit, but they are not registered anyway. Maybe they don't have companies, or maybe they have, but in the context of FIFA, they are not recognized by FIFA. FIFA only recognized an agent because this is the person that's been said to be an intermediator for
between the player,
between the player and their clubs or an interested party or something like that. So the agent is the only recognized person or entity, the agency, the recognized entity in regards to professionalism of FIFA and its subsequent structures, structures, Hobo and stuff like that. So now, but these people, they are there. I cannot wish them away just like that. They've operated
for the longest of time.
They've moved players. They've made money.
Some they are still operating.
Some are still operating today. But what then happens? These people won't be there tomorrow if a legal dispute arises.
Because they are not recognized.
Because they are not recognized. You know, they cannot go to Mdarawe Orlando Pirates Koza and say Koza mfana wangu asata abhadharwa transfer fee. Koza will simply ask ukuthi wena ngoba.
Simple.
What's the, your legal identity? What gives you authority? Because otherwise anyone can walk in. Your sister can go and claim on your behalf to say this is I'm my brother's manager. Can I have his money or something like that? So it becomes a whole headache, and it gives a dimension of unprofessionalism.
I'm glad you've tried to clarify that, maybe for the benefit of maybe our viewers.
Yes.
And maybe there is a player who's watching now, they know, because there are so many players that are represented falsely, if I can say. Maybe tomorrow when there's a dispute,
yes,
then that person is nowhere to be seen.
Not there.
Yeah.
Because those people, they don't suffer any obligations to FIFA. Unlike us, I've got a license to maintain.
You pay
every other year. I maintain my license by paying, another additional $300 per year for me to maintain my license. And also, I have to ensure I do reporting of my cases, my clients, to say it's like, okay, I've got these kids, so far we are good, we don't have any issues and stuff like that. I've got a supervisory authority that communicates with me to say, as an agent, whether you were involved in this transaction, was it a fair transaction or not? And they evaluate that. But if it's a manager or if it's just someone from the street who has represented you, who do they report? They don't. FIFA doesn't even know that that person. So there was a case even of players wanting to have their sister, their mother, or what. The only way that any other person, if it's your sister or whatever,
they have to take up
they also have to take the exam and also become an agent. It's a free space for anyone. Like Aye Florian Witz is represented by the parents. I'm sure one of the parents is an agent. And there are a couple of other players as well.
Like Jude Bellingham. I heard the story of Jude Bellingham also.
Their parents. But they have to become agents. Otherwise, they cannot sit in a transaction. And unlike in the old times, they would. But things have changed because of those legal aspects. Like also going to the aspect of, or that you raised, of lawyers. So what happens in my case? It's either, like I said, I can work solo. Also, the study material that I talked about, it conscientizes me on legal aspects. So I know the legal frameworks regarding to dispute resolution whenever a dispute arises between a player and a club. So I can lodge, I can quote, a provision, this and that is
section so and so.
All that I can. But look at a scenario where maybe I'm now managing 50 or 100 players. It becomes a whole, a workload. And in most cases, we agree to these simpler regulations because we always like, there's not going to be a case that going to
overlook that.
The sports arbitration. But if you're a smart person like me, I've got an agency. So within my agency now, what I can do is I can employ a lawyer.
For legal representation.
So it's like, chagu piece up and up. Yes. I can give them guidelines to say, no, these sections are breached when a club A or a club B against my players, right? So please quote these sections and we write to FIFA or we write to the club and we highlight, no, you are in breach of this section, whatnot, right? In consultation. But for me, I think it's wiser for me to have, a lawyer on call to say, it's like, child piece up but the legal is and it's going. Then others, what they do is, education these days, it's for all.
It's there online,
yes.
for everyone.
It's for everyone.
Yeah.
I can also then go into law school and marry the two.
Yes.
I can now marry my law background and my agency background. I'm able to interpret law by myself. I don't need to employ anyone. But the agents can have employees. We can employ HR, we can employ marketing because we also need to brand our player and stuff like that. That is if it's an agency. Now, you you employ these different personnel who then represent your player in all these different dimensions. But in regards to the actual representation, again, no one else in your agency, if they don't hold a license, will sit in a meeting, representing your player.
Except
Nurization.
now again, I hope it's clear. I hope it's clear the difference between the manager, the agents, and the legal representation.
Yes.
Now, there is always this issue. The clubs, that maybe the love and hate relationship between the clubs and the agency. You'll find maybe a player with maybe an agent, maybe getting maybe privileges.
Yes.
Maybe within maybe the national team or the club over a player without representation. What makes that scenario?
Okay. So basically, I'm not acknowledging that. Sorry, I'm not denying that the players who are said to have benefited from, having people hanging over them or around them, to carry them through. But for me, that's not how I see it. My player speaks for themselves through talent.
But we've
people,
heard.
yes, I'm not denying that there are cases where you say there are others who are said to have gotten advantage because maybe they are signed to this big agent or what. Because remember, we are people. At the end of the day, we drink coffee with the coaches or with the other people in the football ecosystem, and probably maybe those relationships will leverage in a way, to get my players known. The same way as you market your players to go to Europe and stuff like that. It's very rare for a European club to knock on my door and say, Tatenda, can you find us a player or do you have a player? But there are agents that are connected there because maybe perhaps they've been in that game for a very long time. They've grown their personal reputations and stuff like that. But for me, it's the player's talent that speaks for itself.
Okay.
So you might even find Tatenda's player, Happy's player, will make it to the national team because I scouted a talented player and I promoted a talented player, without not having to go badara
because there are so many cases of brown envelopes, and the people who are always in question are the agents.
True.
You find that people always saying agents have got this influence, so much that if you represent maybe player A or player B, the players that you are representing, they are having privileges over those players that are not represented. You will see a player maybe being taken from the club to the national team because of the influence of the so-called agent. Is that the case maybe in Zim? So where we see some players that are continuously being selected to the national team?
Well, that's a very hot one. But,
because honestly, I know it's a maybe a sensitive subject, but these are things that we hear in the street. People saying, it's the agents, it's the agents.
I've had cases before, like when I spoke in the context of the managers and everything and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now with FIFA is nipping corruption in the bud. So
Okay.
I've got a lot at stake. If I play those games and I'll risk my license being terminated and I can't operate as an agent anymore. So for me, it's more about encouraging fair play, hard work, honesty. What I can do is basic marketing, yes, to say like, I can market my player, I can make my graphics or my states so that they are seen. I promote them.
So now it's not.
Yes.
It's the issue of marketing.
Yes, it's
coming
now
into
more
play.
of marketing because remember the other factor that limits is our national associations. Sometimes they've got challenges with spreading personnel over the country and stuff like that. Is the economic environment that we are surviving in.
Yeah.
So you then find out there are situations where things like vangotora vanhu veKwarare and all that. Maybe perhaps ndo vari kuoneka or perhaps ndo vari padhuze. Because we also
Isn't that the issue of you guys being now powerful in the game?
No,
Because
we have a lack of TV. How many of Division 1 games are broadcast on TV? When even the league games,
Itself.
you only get
See
to
maybe
watch
once or twice.
2 or 3 games per week. Out of how
not
many
3,
teams?
twice, maybe 2 games. Yeah,
Yeah.
at max.
2.
Yeah.
Out of how many teams? You know?
Yeah.
So now what we are now doing, my agents will go to that game following my player, you know. Pictures, graphics, stats, and all that. Snap, interview, spread it online. You know, publish those things on Facebook, on what, to encourage the noise. This is like, but kune player kupisa gubi ku Cholocho, kune player kupisa ku Bait Bridge, you know, and then the scouts, the selectors would be encouraged to come and see the performance. But without that noise, there is no one who then comes. So now that's where we are also coming in to say, like, remember, I'm now not just standing to represent my player in a transaction when it just comes to a negotiation.
When it comes to the issue of
I'm
demand.
now representing my players in a lot of
Areas.
things. You know, legally, I'm representing them. I'm marketing them. You know, maybe perhaps I'm also teaching them financial literacy as well. Tinotombogara pasi tomboita zvima workshops, zvima talks, tinoita all these things that are being done by agents and their agencies, because the player is my asset, and for this asset, you know, to become successful, I really have to go all the way, you know. Because so many cases that have happened, other unfortunate cases, career and things were not looking good. They didn't have any money.
It's always the case with
That's
football.
always
It's always
the
the case with football.
yeah.
I was coming to that. How then to plan to change that situation? I was coming to the part. I wanted us to clarify this one because this is the hottest topic in the country, maybe in some countries as well.
Yeah.
Whereby people are saying agents are now these powerful people in the game. They've got influence everywhere. If a player is represented by you, as an example, your players are getting privilege. Your players are the ones that are playing. Your players are everywhere in the national team. How is that?
I think there is a misconception in regards to, you know, what agents can do and to what extent they can do.
They cannot.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I've clearly explained the mandate of the agent,
and
it stops there. You know, if there are cases that we've heard, yes, even myself when I was growing up, that was maybe the misconception that I had because of the conversations that go in the street, you know, and stuff like that. So you always find even when you are negotiating with a player, you know, they already think that you've got the doors to open to Scotland or to Platinum because you are an agent. You know.
Then,
but, I mean, agent.
Then they stop putting in the shift. Saying my agent will do that for me.
If I want, I can take you to Blawayo Chiefs if that's the club that's interested in you. I can take you to Dulibazimo FC if that's the club that's interested in you, and we deal with that contract negotiation on its merit. Yes. So there is the misconception to say it's like, no, Canada agent kwenda ku Scotland national team and stuff like that. But yes, if maybe I've got reputation, you've got good players. Yes,
I get that.
Or I've got hard-working players, or I've got that. Yes, you might find good people, because even for myself, I've got principles. I don't just go around just signing anyone because they can kick a ball. There are certain considerations, or things that do. I know we're gonna get to that part.
So now, maybe I know maybe in Zim,
yes,
this is the space that's maybe starting. That's why maybe if we've got only 13 of you guys.
Yes.
How is the how can I ask this question? How are players responding to you guys as agencies? Because many players are not represented.
Yes. It's half and half, my bro. And I also want to say it's kind of tough as well. Why do I say it's half and half? There are other players that understand the importance of agents and the needs of agents and the operations of agents. Then there are other players that cannot comprehend those things altogether, or they don't have access. They don't know.
Yes.
It's like, okay, if I want an agent, how do I goal about it, or if I have an agent, what is the nature of the relationship, and how does it benefit me, and how does it benefit the agent? Again, the issue of misconceptions, which I maybe perhaps blame the media. And I want to thank you guys for being the very first platform that has given me
this is the number one soccer podcast in the lane.
To come and sit down. I've worked in the media. Colleagues knew, my former colleagues, they knew that I acquired a license. I was never given an opportunity for an interview, but I worked in a television station. But I was never given an opportunity to come and maybe spell out my vision, or just to be interviewed in some way. But you guys are the first guys that have given me this opportunity. So again, it goes back to that issue that it breeds all this kind of misconceptions within the society, to say, what is an agent? How do they help me? How do they everyone will think that you are a rip-off.
Yeah, because there are so many players that are not represented. Truly speaking, and hopefully after watching this interview, a lot of players will contact you. Because I think it's very important for one to be represented by an agent.
So let's say someone has come through to me, or I've identified them and I want to represent them. Right? So it's very simple. FIFA has got stipulated regulations in regards to the commissions that you can charge as an agent, right? If your player earns something like less than $200,000 per year.
I know this is Zim.
Yes, in Zim. Right? Yes, they earn less. Whether Gorete Gomagi 10,000 or whatever. I'm allowed to only get 5% of that.
Per annum.
Yes, per annum.
Okay.
So if my player, and this is excluding bonuses, we don't even touch on their bonuses that they get. So this is their basic salary. So let's say, for example, he gets 10,000
net
a year, or one player net. Right. I get 5%. 5% of 10,000 is
was to do the math fast.
So if it's 10%, that's 1,000.
That's 1,000. It's 500.
So that's $500 from a player.
From a player,
right. So this is the commission that I'm getting from doing all this work, including taking out my cameras, including having a lawyer that represents this player for whatever thing, and I'll pay these guys from my own money. I don't invoice the player.
The player
invoice.
It's a tricky.
You understand? So I'm getting $500 from a player. But when a player now gets to learn, there is an agent who has, who wants to work with you.
Exactly.
But Urusara 9.5 and I get 500, and I'm protecting you. I'm marketing you. I'm teaching you financial literacy. These are the interventions that I'm making. And sometimes Pampacho is actually less than that. So imagine 3% yangu azowana pagore awana 1.2. How much is my 5%?
Right.
Then if their annual is more than 200,000,
these are now big boys.
Are now the big boys. That's when we are allowed to take 3%, and then kana arima transfer fees. Well, it's agent to agent basis, right? Between 0 to 10% mostly, because there is a certain threshold that we cannot cross. So mpana aenda kujoza atenga one 200,000, agent anenga ine 10%. 20,000. So what was you on 20,000 for a person who's facilitated all this movement for you? Because remember, I'm facilitating
the transaction, as you say.
Right? And as agents, we don't just sit. Like now, most of the windows, they are closed. We don't just sit to wait for the next window. Wafana muno Zimbabwe, they don't have profiles, transfer market profiles. They don't have even
almost
clips.
Almost 90% of the players.
Kuti ndipo highlight reel rako. We deal with Wafana vekuna na Ghana. Anokuwana pa LinkedIn. Mdara deep ziri say Mdara. Ndakuona pa LinkedIn. Can I please have your WhatsApp number? You give him your WhatsApp number. Then you're just like, maybe that's just about it. You DM you pronto. Dara, at the moment I'm a free agent. I don't have an agent. I don't have a club. Can you do something? I've played for this. This is my CV. This is my highlight reel. A professional highlight reel, a package with a YouTube link and everything. This is my transfer market profile. and everything. Because this is what the scouts want. These are the tools that the scouts overseas use. Because they really hardly have the time. Imagine if he's interested in 20 players and they are all scattered in Africa. He has to fly to Somalia. He has to fly to Zimbabwe. He has to fly to Zambia. He has to fly to
That's so much work.
That's so much work. You know. So to make it easy, you get your small packages that you have, and then you send out to these guys. So we don't sleep. Online Papana ngashikanda mu profiles. Ndara. Left wing am ndara ndri CB ndara. Wangu, I wish I had a football club that I owned, but I'm not allowed to own anyway by the regulations.
You know what you're doing? It's mind-boggling. You're just opening up my brain.
Yeah.
So there's so much work for agents, eh?
There is so much work.
And tell you what, in Zim, I can bet my last dollar. 90% of the players, they don't have what you're talking about.
And
they really don't have what you're talking about.
They don't have. I know for a fact because I've been approached by fellow agents. Because what we do now as agents, we work as a network. Because you cannot it's not easy to penetrate this by saying, I'm a Highlander, it's me and my sword, I'll go in. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
And honestly, at some point in time, I almost regretted to say, it's like, why did I become an agent? Because I've spent so much money. It's like I told you, my initial license was $600. There was an exam fee. There were fingerprints involved with the police. There was my time reading. There was my time writing the exam. I've spent in excess of 2,000 in just securing the license alone and establishing
and
the good register. And I haven't even said good I've enjoyed the cent. You then have to buy
it's now investment.
I have to buy him boots, 60
because it doesn't have.
Because he doesn't have.
Yeah.
And also in his mind, he believes once an agent comes through and signs me, my problems
I'm sorted.
Yeah. And the funny thing, let me explain to you. When you sign a player, you don't immediately start getting the benefits, whether it's a player who's playing in the top flight league. Because remember, this is on a contract basis. You have to negotiate a contract for a player for you to start getting something from the player. So, anga toripakati be contract yake anayo. I have to wait for that contract to expire for me now to start having an influence. Yes, now I can represent him because I've had an issue with my club and everything because
you can now take care of the
contract club representation agreement
it's different. Yeah,
representation agreement is for 2 years and then you can decide if he wants to renew. Then
I want to continue.
Yes, FIFA doesn't allow us to have a representation agreement that is beyond 2 years.
It exists to us.
Only if it's a minor, then that's allowed 3 years because the minor needs to grow a little bit, so you spend time with the minor. But if it's a professional player, it's 2 years. And also you can terminate. You can give each other notices. But imagine if it's coming from the player's perspective, it's coming from a perspective of pressure. He wants a big move. Move me. So back to my point. You don't start immediately getting financial rewards from signing a player. I've signed you, but I haven't represented you.
Maybe that's why we only have 11 of you guys.
So we have to get into the next contract cycle. Then now I come in a chair kangu ne player yangu hapa but Dago Islanders to negotiate a deal. Do panda kuchwana ma 5%, ma 3%, ma 10% aya anashtawa. Because like now if I come in and start charging the player, I'm benefiting from a deal that I didn't negotiate.
You are now ripping what
I'm
you did
now
not sow.
ripping off I'm not ripping off where I didn't. So you see now these are some of the challenges of the industry. To say good, I almost said, I regret. But I'm not there for the money. Yes,
eventually the money will come.
The money will come and I want it.
Yes, everyone wants the money. Yeah,
that's not the ulterior motivation that I have. My dad failed to get a move because that representation was vague. It was not clear, kumba chifungo to kwa ma voucher everything and stuff like that. So seguro.
But we have had so many instances, if we can count,
yes,
like in the country, where players have been ripped off by these bogus agencies.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had so many
Definitely.
of them. Yeah.
You know, that's why FIFA has stepped in to say, good, no, Monaco, let them be licensed. It's a verifiable license in a Kakiora code. So
that you
whoever, whether I'm speaking to the parent, whether I'm speaking to you, I'm at the club, when I meeting, they can quickly scan and it takes them to the FIFA website and then they can actually see, okay, this is a bona fide agent. Because I've got something to lose. That license is gold, my guy. It's gold.
Yeah.
You know, we sit in an exam where 3/4 fail. And they have to wait for the next year.
Yeah.
Not just waiting for something for 1 year. Yeah.
So, please, if you are watching us for the first time, please engage with us, like, subscribe, and share. Now, you've talked about minors for quite some time in this conversation.
Yes.
How is it going to the parent trying to represent maybe a minor that you've seen that has got the talent? Any challenges trying to reach out to the parent, say, I'm a soccer agent, I want to represent your child?
Okay. So now the issue of the FIFA licenses, that's where it really comes in, as important, because you have got a document that you can offer the parents and they can verify. Unlike if you're just coming as a bogus agent and you've got nothing to back you, because my license, they say is FIFA, it's got my full name, they can verify with my ID, there is a connect ID, they can call FIFA, do you know this one? Even Zifa, they can call Zifa. Now, yes, the misconceptions are still there, just approaching a parent saying, I've got interest in your child, in Spain or something like that. But the good thing is that more and more parents are becoming understanding. Like the first kid that I signed in Bulawayo, I was welcomed into their home. The parents were so eager because Mwana Ega ndiye akatora an interest in getting an agent. So he went home and says like, no, I need an agent.
So these players are okay? These young ones?
Yeah, now they are woke because they are reading these things online and all that. Yeah. And he had been approached by bogus people who were charging him, sending him messages. Trials, you have to pay this much money and stuff.
Yes.
Because for kids, they don't have to pay anything for trials.
Yeah.
The only exception might be in cases where a club says, yes, we are interested in you, we'll give you accommodation, we'll take care of you, but we cannot afford flights for you. That's an exception that you can take, a risk that you can take. To say, okay, and I'm moms and the flight, and then if I make it, I will give you back your money or something like that. But in most cases, if a club is interested in a minor, they foot everything, including even my boots, my tracksuits, and everything to session with others, because we do other things like for me to represent minors, right? By license paid. Either you've got able to represent minors, no. Able to represent minors, yes. But it's an extra course that you then do after the license. It's free of charge, but you have to do it. So it's optional, because minors, they are not on a transaction basis. Minors are namari badaru. But anozoita mari at some point in time. But in the normal business, you cannot take money from a minor who charge a percentage for facilitating a transfer. A minor is an agent. So that's why you see most people ignore my minors.
But I think
18 But for me now, because I want to build with the kid, I want to build proper understanding with the parents and stuff like that, I did that. So I'm approved. I'm able to deal with minors. I can facilitate the movement of minors, So my minors mostly, they sign my pre-contracts. But you can ask 18 and then he's now able to move
as an adult
to this club. Except when I go Europe, they've got my exceptions. And some other rules that apply. Good can minor. I don't know. Tambira team Mozambique. Under what regard they have to live closer to the border? I think a distance of 100 kilometers on either side to the club and their house. There are a lot of rules.
There are so many rules regarding the minors.
Then there are other courses that you can also do, especially is safeguarding. Nowadays, FIFA is big on safeguarding. So kuna self-guarding courses and FIFA for free online and everything and stuff like that. You also take those. You understand how it is to deal with a minor or how it is to scout a minor. Talent identification, I've done that. Those I will share with you, and then you can play around with those.
Yeah.
Right. All those certificates, they help in understanding in the environment of dealing with minors. How do you approach minors? How do you scout them? How many days do you need to scout a minor? But when Hassan and Zara, he wasn't performing at his best, and then you say, he's useless.
Because like most cases in Africa.
What's the kind of language that you actually use when talking to a minor? How do you approach parents? How do you approach a club or an academy that owns a minor? All those things, you learn them. So it's an investment. It's my time. Whether it's immaterial that those courses could be free of charge online or something, but it's an investment on its own.
I wanted to ask if the minor now is 10, maybe 18, and you are still representing that minor, and there's a certain club that wants that child now is an adult. You've represented him maybe from age 12 to 18. Does the developmental fee that I usually hear the clubs crying about also apply to the agent?
They don't, because remember, to the agent, no. There is no money that I get, but I need to facilitate the payment of the monies to all the other clubs that were involved in the development of that player. So for their first transaction, there rules and regulations that apply in regards to the transfer of minors, and also even as an adult player, kuna solidarity and compensation mechanisms and stuff like that. That section where those monies, they have to be enforced. So you, as an agent, you have to ensure. The challenge is that in Zim, normally our players, right, they don't have a FIFA passport. There is what is called a FIFA passport. It's a number, a license number. And even my league numbers are not my license number. There is also supposed to be what is called a FIFA passport number. So it tracks all the academies and the clubs that you've played for from a junior level going right up to the end of your career.
Now my question now is Epi, you have represented that boy since he was 12.
Yes.
Let's take, for instance, this case. There is a boy who played for the national team. I think his name is Prosper. Let's take for Prosper. He's now playing in Finland.
Yes,
that boy is 18.
Yes.
Let's say there was someone who was representing him from maybe say age 12, 13, 14, 15 up to 18. Then he makes the move to Finland now. That particular club that bought him in Finland, does that club pay you as an agent for having bring the boy? Yes.
No, it doesn't.
My guy.
It's at the point of transaction, at the point of influence. So remember these players that we have signed, right? They are minors or they are adults, right? They've got the right to either terminate an agreement between an agent, or at the expiration of the contract with the one particular agent, they can decide not to renew with this agent and move on to the next. Right? Let me give you a proper example. Let's say I've got a kid that I've been with from Blair Chiefs. Right? I've been with this kid from Blair Chiefs. Then this kid maybe moves to Scotland. Right? I get something out of the transaction. Whilst at Scotland, my agreement with this terminates, or he opts out with and Charlie, and immediately he gets a move to South Africa or to Europe. And another agent comes in and signs with this one. It's now this agent who will take whatever commissions that are there, because it's at the deal point of view. Doesn't matter if you were getting 5% of $20. And now there is an opportunity for 5% of $1 million. It's at a contract basis where the player reserves most of the right to. And the funny part, even whilst within a contract, a player has got the leeway to sit in a contract negotiation without you. In the case maybe you are not available, your phone is GG. So if that happens,
but at the end of the day, do you get your percentage?
That's what I want to explain. So if that happens, you are not entitled to charge anything unless vazivo zvenyu zvepachifesi kuti haa muri mudhara wangu manga musiringobatika mairwara mamuri mukoma I will still owe you something.
It's a risky business.
So
especially in the case where you have been with the player maybe since he was a
very young kid. Something happens, you are in
and you have invested so much in the it's a risky.
So you see now why FIFA didn't want it to be looked at from an investment perspective.
Yes.
Because it will breed these problems that will.
But those are the cases that you normally hear.
And those are the cases that you find in the exam, the questions. It's like, okay,
that's what many people say.
Unreachable and you're in a coma. What then happens? Does your player stop? Our Ali is calling your player and saying, we want our Ali also take the first player from Zimbabwe. You're in coma, cannot phone you know, your player can't get hold of you. What suffices? Does the player say my agent is not available? I cannot enter into the deal.
I get that scenario.
Signs on his terms and says no, mdara muna change. Unless also I'm mdara muri wangu, but I'm now batika.
It's now a relationship.
It's now the relationship that you've built with the player.
Yes.
And they even have got laws that protect them in that regard to say yes, you are allowed as a player to self-represent if your agent is not available. So it's a very tricky,
and especially for the minors that you have represented from a young age, investing, hoping that maybe one day he gets a deal. How does it differ between the minors now and the adults, representing an adult, maybe from an 18-year-old now maybe is making a move, as you had alluded.
Okay, so there are limitations, there are statutes that guide the movement and transfer of minors. You know, because mostly transfers are either of a domestic dimension or of international dimension. So with minors, there are a lot of issues to do with safeguarding. If you transfer a 13-year-old and you take them to go and play football in the UK, they're going to have a lot of challenges. Culture shock, food, accommodation. They need guidance. Someone,
maybe now language barrier,
and everything. So that's why FIFA had said minors cannot transfer up until they are 18. So they have to sign pre-contract, agreements like what happened in the case of Vini, and I think I can't remember if Esteval was in the same bracket or Esteval was just a case of Chelsea waiting for something. But in this case, I know very well. Vini signed a contract whilst he was still in Brazil, and then he had to wait to turn 18 for him to then move to.
I think it's the same scenario.
But if your parents move to another country, right, for any other reason that is not related to football, then a minor can immediately be transferred. Because there are regulations that apply. There are guidelines to what. So let's say your parents, they work at an embassy or something like that, and you are 14-year-old. So a club, man, you can sign you, coming from his
also with club. You
because
representing
your yes, I can represent them, yes, but because the parents have moved with work, the parents cannot move because of your footballing endeavors or the footballing endeavors of the minor. Good parent, bayati mwana wanga do ne Man U saka yoita diri ne Man U Man U chibhadhara moti move kuti tiwe uzogara ku UK. They cannot do that. Then there are a lot of other regulations. So minors are a little bit tricky. That's why I told you, like, if you check the number of agents that are on the FIFA roster and the number of agents that actually represent minors, it's quite little because there's not really much monetary benefit
for business sense,
business, because there are a lot of complications with the movement of minors. These days you are dealing with issues of trafficking that have been so high. I think the case of John Obi Mikel, there's a trafficking dimension to it as well with this movement.
That was well documented.
Exactly. And a couple of other players, I think Ahmad as well faces the same. Ahmad was playing for United. Yes, there's a trafficking dimension again to how he ended up playing football in
the UK.
Not before in Italy before before you came.
Okay.
So these are the issues.
Okay.
These are the challenges that you face. So many challenges that you face when dealing with minors.
With minors, yeah.
Yes. Unlike the adults, they're free to move, free to decide whatever they want. They can easily adjust. There is no aspect of trafficking. They are not being coerced. You know what I mean? Because a minor, you can transfer a minor today. Tomorrow he feels out of place in Italy.
He wants
and
to
says
go
like,
back.
No, I don't like eating pizza every day. I want to go back to where there is sadza. And there is money is involved. What then happens?
Yeah.
So minors are a bit of a complication.
I get that. Maybe in the case of maybe our country, many players are not. They are not represented with soccer. How then do we improve the situation to make the space very professional? Players know that there is this agency, there is this framework, so that we can get proper. Because there are cases where funds end up coming in to help the players.
Yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
I think it's this issue where players, they don't know who is supposed to represent them. How then do we make the space a safe space between players and agents, so that players know that there are people who are supposed to represent us professionally, so that we don't face these challenges, and also help the footballers union. That's doing great too. I think they're also bridging the gap between you and you guys and the players.
Yes.
How then do we make the space professional for players and also you guys?
Yes. So most importantly, it's been this issue in regards to do with information. To say it's like information has been scarce in regards to how agents operate and in what frameworks they operate. What do they want from players? What do they expect from players? What do they give the players in return? And once again, I'm saying thank you for giving me this space for me to be on this podcast, to be able to speak my mind, to speak from the heart, to speak to all these issues that have been eating me up. Because there hasn't been much noise or much information that's shared, especially in regards to what agents are. And the funny fact that I also want to bring out is even the league itself, it kind of tries to elbow us out.
Because you've been seen as problematic.
No, but once we get there, we were trying to enforce professional standards. They
don't want.
Because these players know, these clubs, they know, they go for 2-3 months without paying players.
Yeah.
And we will simply report to FIFA, because FIFA has got stipulations to say, like, if a player goes for this much without being paid, they
Contract
are
is
allowed to
terminate
FIFA, or they are allowed to terminate and
Yeah.
all that. So what these clubs are then doing is that they kind of make it difficult to deal with them. When I became an agent, I just wanted to go around all these different clubs, just a meet and greet, a coffee, and so it's like, this is me, this is what I do and stuff like that. But all I got has been excuses, even from people that I know
Don't tell me.
that I've drank with Kubawa one day.
Once they hear an agent,
Once
the block.
you say it's like handikumbura kwa office timbo discuss our business. I reckon goes over madara. But you are the CEO ndo wakabata chitanda che organization unofana utoti no. Charlotte club it is zvinhu professional
yeah,
and stuff like that. And then on the other hand, they've got their people that are bringing in players, from other countries.
The bogus,
the bogus,
yeah.
That do not have licenses, that do not account to anyone, that do not report to anyone. But what I want to say is, maybe these are things that I won't be able to change as an individual. But thank you for the platform. I'm able to say my side.
Pleasure is ours.
And I'm able to speak to the players directly and tell them the benefit. It's their choice at the end of the day.
True.
This is like, okay, can an agent truly enhance my career?
From what you've said, I think a player can enhance.
Yeah.
Now, sorry to cut you off. Now I understand why clubs maybe tend to want to deal with the bogus guys. Maybe from a professional setup, there's a whole lot of things. Maybe the clubs, they don't want players to find out maybe their rights and stuff. Like you're saying, if there are so many clubs that go maybe 2 or 3 months without paying these players.
Yes.
With proper representation,
the players
all
will
break loose.
Right.
Yeah.
Every player will, at the end of the day, will want representation.
Yes.
Right. But we are not saying that we want to come and create, a rift between the clubs and the players and all that. We just want everything to be professional. You know what I mean? This is like, okay, if it's a sign-on fee, if you don't have it, guys, when at least do we expect my player to have it? 6 months, or we spread it across this contract with $300 on top of his salary to cover for the sign-on fee. If the player is in agreement, then that's okay, because an agent doesn't enforce things. That's another misconception that's there. An agent doesn't enforce things. He consults with the player. What do you want? Which club do you want to move to? How much are you expecting to earn? What benefits do you think I can ask from the club on your behalf? What clauses do you want in your contract? And stuff like that. Then I act on instruction from the player. You understand? I'm not
the player is the boss.
Because the interests are not mine.
The player is the boss.
The player is the boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes. So my point or my influence is the professional discussion, the professional aspect of it. I know how to ask for certain things on the club to say, ndachikumbira kuti player ngomupota muchipo airtime ye $20 paveki kuzofonera mukadzi wayo ari kumusha. And if they say no, ndovabvunza kuti okay, so say mati no, matadziwo kana $10. But if they are speaking to the player directly and the player makes such kind of a request, an outrageous request or something, or if the player is turned down on that request, you don't know his reaction to that. Right? But I'm able to, to balance the emotions and everything between the employer and the employee at the end of the day. But in consultation, imimi club, alright, saka mamati muri kukwanisa kubhadhara player yangu mari. Hata totokwanisa kumbhadhara 300. Iyoyo yanzi 300. Kokomdara mandi kuti ite 350. That's what I'm doing. So there is no way that an agent is a trouble causer or an agent is there to create noise. And all the same, I'm using my network. Yes, clubs might have their own networks. They might argue they've got other scouts that they deal with and all that. But I'm also using my network and my efforts. You know, I can fly to Cape Town to have a meeting with an agent or a scout in Cape Town for particular clubs there and buy them coffee and lunch. Just to build a relationship and come back.
Yeah.
Yes. I've got no monetary return from that, but
we are busy building your network. I'm
building a network. I'm investing.
Yeah.
So this is what we do. We don't just sit and just wait to say like once kune mfana ari kupisa then tonojambira ipapo. Ndikunokutora ndikakujambira ndisina kokuendesa.
Then what?
Undongonakidzwa nekunzi ndakasaina mfana and and at the end of the day, even when these kids move in a professional way, these clubs will get their returns.
They also benefit,
They will benefit from the transfer fees and all that. So imagine if we create a monster of a machine like what happens in Europe when all the agents are involved. I'm sure we've just gone past the European transfer window.
The transfer window.
Where you've heard, his agent is meeting the club. The player is not even there. The player is busy focusing on training and preparing for the next season, whether they are still at Real Madrid or whether they will be at
I think with Europe, the space is already professional.
Yes.
The clubs now, they understand how agents work and vice versa. But in Africa, in most cases, I think something still needs to be done between you guys, the clubs, and the players. We can't be having a situation whereby we've got 90% of the players not being represented. Obviously, something. If you check our transfer window,
yes,
we don't even know
who is represented, who is
how much was the transaction. You understand?
Yeah.
So there's still so much of these things, so much of these technicalities to be done between the clubs, the agencies, maybe the mother body and stuff, because we're still having a lot of problems between players, clubs, and everyone else who is involved in the game. I would love a situation whereby there is a professional setup where we can trace who is representing this player, because there are also deals. Remember, you hear players maybe right here in South Africa,
Yes.
a player has got an endorsement deal.
Yes.
But how many players in Zim get endorsement deals? Maybe that's the other thing that players, they don't know. If you are represented,
Yes.
you can easily.
Those are the things that I was talking about when I talked about the marketing aspect. Those are part of the marketing components to say is like, I'm not just marketing you in just the case of moving you. We also do those. We also negotiate, those endorsement deals with brands, with apparel, even basic deals for mobile phones and stuff like that. We are in a position to do that.
Yeah, that's it.
So we want an ecosystem. Even us as an agent, as agents, we have all sat down and we are creating our union, EMA agents. We want to speak with one voice. Yes, we've met the Zifa president and we've laid out our vision with him. We are trying to formalize the relationship between, the mother body and the agents, because it was, when I came into the business, I felt like I was just facilitated to write the exam. So I felt that formal, welcome into the industry was not there, but I had to act on my heels, you know what I mean, because it's my license at the end of the day. I really don't expect anyone to come and hold my hand and walk me through it, but I'm grateful for this friend. It's based in Victoria Falls, and we've just been communicating.
Okay.
Helping each other, with whatever hurdles that we are coming across. But we are there, even for players, just to consult before he makes a decision. Because it's not like when he sees me, I'm forcing them to take out a contract with me,
or sign with your agents,
or sign with my agents. Yes. But we are there for these conversations. It might be just like, I'm done and coffee to
you like coffee?
Yeah. And what is the contract like? What is in the contract? Because there are so many things that we can do. We can even put the contract in your vernacular language for you to understand it if you can't understand English.
You understand?
We are encouraged to do that by FIFA. We can put it in French, we can put it in Spanish, we can put it in Shona.
So that the player understands.
So that the player can understand.
Yeah.
We inform that, the player is allowed to have personal legal representation when they are signing the representation agreement with us. There are so many things that they can do, for very little or for nothing, before they get to a point where me and the player are now in a contract. And already I've mentioned to say, being in a representation contract with me does not automatically mean I'm now taking something from you.
Exactly.
And
when
I negotiate a contract for you, ndakutengesa ku Pirates, ndakuendesa ku France, that's when something kicks in now. So I've
seen that in Orlando Pirates. I've talked about Orlando Pirates quite fast, and even you mentioned Ivan Coast. Yes. So if you tell me, during this past window,
yes,
any challenges faced in terms of maybe trying to sign deals for your players, or how was this particular window like?
Every window is challenging, my guy. I don't want to lie to you, because there's really a thin line between moving a player in a window and not moving a player at all, because some of the variables, they are not in my control. You understand? I might have a right winger, a left back, a goalkeeper, a centre back signed under my agency, but there has to be demand for that player. Yes, people always anticipate that there is demand everywhere, but it takes a club releasing players for it to have a slot and to want other higher performing athletes. So it might be a case to say it's like a window can go by without you moving a player, and it's the hardest thing that you can go through, because your player wants a move. Especially, when you're coming from a league like Zimbabwe, where, there are a lot of challenges and the money is not really up there and stuff like that. I commend the clubs for doing whatever that they're doing. I commend them even for existing.
So that you can be in business.
Yeah, so that we can be in business. Tough as it is, but I commend them, But the players, they are ever demanding. Ndara offer. Sign a representation agreement only yesterday.
So I've got a tough job of first convincing the player.
When they know the window is open, everyone is waiting for their opportunity to say this should be my moment. But I like the challenge.
Yeah.
I've assisted, a couple of my colleagues. Like I said, now it's all about networks and
Yeah.
everything. So sometimes a fellow agent in South Africa can demand or request a player that I don't have, a profile that I don't have. So I go to my friends and say, does anyone have a striker with these attributes and these stats and all that? And then we help each other and all that. In as much as it's not encouraged by FIFA to have, you know, a whole bunch of connected agents, but we have to be alive to the fact that this is the world that we are
living in.
Yeah. So all those, you know, connections, they play an important part. So for me, personally, in regards to the 2 windows that I've been an agent and I've been running an agency, it's mostly been about growth, like, you know, signing the representation agreements, getting to have players on my profile. I've gone on to sign a player in the UAE. I've got a player in
That's
Ghana.
an emerging market, eh?
That's an emerging market as well. We are looking everywhere to try and see, as long as there is improvement on our players, you know, either earnings or professional capacity or individual development or anything, we explore. If a player wants to go to India, I can facilitate for them to go to India if they are okay with the package and they will be okay with the culture there. You know, if my player wants to go to Ukraine, I'll try as much as I can. I'll break an arm and a leg for me to move them to Ukraine if that's where they want to be. If they want to go to Israel, it's not my say to say no, you can't.
As
long as I can facilitate something.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been about a growth perspective. I have to be alive to the fact that I'm a new age agent. Young,
very young.
Yes. So I've set milestones for myself to say, okay, by this year or by the 3rd year of business, at least I should have attained, you know, these objectives and stuff like that. So for me now, it's been learning. I've been part of other guys, you know, closing their deals, assisting them with this and that and that and that. And in this window, I didn't move anyone, but I've managed to sign players that are also in the, you know, professional league,
nice.
league, a couple of others. Because it takes a lot. These conversations, they are not just a day conversation. You know, sometimes it takes up a week or a month for a player to decide to sign with you. Mumu after what uzumkankana uti ndakambompa offer yekuti I want to represent you. Ndara ndakuda manje.
Hopefully after this interview you'll get a lot of
yes.
wish.
But you have to know, like I said earlier, it's not just everyone and anyone who
Yes.
picks a ball. Like at my agency, we also have got values. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
You can't sign every chicken.
You know,
Yeah.
We also look at, you know, motivation, an individual's motivation. How far or how much are they willing, you know, to work hard, to sacrifice for their career, you know, umuntu unjani, you know, character-wise, behavior-wise and stuff.
Because
like
you don't want someone who will bring trouble to your agency.
You take someone to South Africa, the money is now great. You know, booze and women will be the next thing and stuff like that. And then the next thing, they're spiraling out of control at their club and everything. And imagine all this relationship that I've built with my personal resources, going to South Africa, going to all these other countries, Zambia, Malawi.
Just for someone to come
for someone to then mess up a relationship that, you know, you've built with. Because this is also a business that's all about reputation, trust,
honesty,
honesty, integrity, hard work, and all that.
Yeah.
So we also need players that align, you know, to the vision.
I hope if there's a player who's watching, is learning a thing or two.
I'm willing to die for my players. If
Yeah.
I get a player with the right attitude, regardless of where he comes from, whether he comes from Cholocho, you know, he comes from wherever. I'm willing to, you know, to walk the path with them, even if it means I'm the one digging into my own resources.
Yeah.
You know, for them to, you know, to have a decent pair of boots, or for them to have a kit bag, or for them to have a decent tracksuit, so that, you know, they concentrate on their
football.
On their football.
Yeah.
Instead of being worried to say my peers will laugh at me if they see me and something like that.
But especially in our country, you know, the situation, the economic situation, most players are struggling. In closing, AP, who inspired you to become, because to be a soccer agent? Or is the situation with your dad that
First is the situation with my dad. Then secondly, growing up, I've heard about Mahachi, and I laughed with him this other day. We've just come off a meeting, and then he had to drive and drop me at Harare Sports Club, where I wanted to have dinner and watch cricket, the IPL cricket and stuff like that. So he was driving me there, you know. And then we are now having a conversation after the agents meeting that we were having, you know. And I told him, he says, like, you know what, I've always looked up to you in a very big way, you know.
He's the only agent that we all
know. Denny is there, Lindela is there, and I think Lindela is from Blawa, Lindela Chuma. I think he's also from...
To be quite honest,
but yes.
I only in Zim especially, Gibson Mahachi, he has been the agent.
I've got massive respect for him as well, Deda as well, and the other guys that I'm with in the union and in the business as well. Even all these guys that I'm with now, I've got massive respect for everyone because I've got an appreciation of the business, and I know it's not, you know, child's play. It's very frustrating, and you could easily quit and says, like, you know what, I'm done with this. So he was driving me, and I told him, I was like, you know what, Dad, I grew up, I was, you know, such a young boy, you know, in the dusty streets of Marondera, where I'm from, and all these other places that I've lived. And I said, I was always reading your name when I was like, you know, looking into player transfers when those players were making it to Europe and stuff like that. And he gave me a word of encouragement. He says, like, you know what, young man, you can do it. You can do this. So I think that interaction with him, I don't know if he even still remembers it, but I hope he does remember.
Let's hope he watches.
He watches this, it has stuck with me. Then also I knew of the notorious, you know, Mino Raiola and all that. But I couldn't become an agent at a very earlier age because of the limitations that were there. Like, you know, I explained the conditions that you needed to meet. So when I stumbled on the new information, by the way. I was just at work, you know, bored, and then I was just, you know, scrolling the internet and all that. And then I had, FIFA has changed, you know, to become an agent. Then I clicked. I read through the information. Now it's easy, you can apply. I called. I research, I call, I but after that try, you know, if there's an opportunity for me. You know? So I looked around. This is like $600. No, I can raise it and stuff like that. You know. Maybe Marian Gadenda visa to great and all that. But you see, life doesn't come without sacrifice. So these are some of the sacrifices that
you have to sacrifice.
These are some of the personal sacrifices that we are actually doing behind the scenes for us to get there. For me to be able to take this kid out of Makokova and take them somewhere.
And you sound like someone with the passion for the game.
Definitely.
So internationally, who's your maybe top 2 or 3 top agents?
Top agents. Top agents. My top 2 agents. I think I've got massive respect for Rafa Pimienta. And then
who does he?
Rafa Pimienta is actually...
You know, if someone is in his space, we only know of the Rabiola because the man is the most...
Rafa Pimienta is a lady. Yeah, is a lady, and I think she's the one who represents... should be Cristiano. Yeah, I think Cristiano is...
Isn't Cristiano was with...
Raiola. I don't
know. Mendes. Jogi Mendes, yeah. He was with George Mendes. I think he left. He was with Mendes because Mendes.
I could be confused, but there is a very big player that is represented.
Can you check for me?
By Rafa Pimienta.
Rafa Pimienta.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think she's Rafaela Pimienta. She's a lawyer or something.
Okay.
Well. She's very big. Yeah. Then Jogi as well. Jogi. And probably I would have thrown in Mino as well. In as much as Mino was so motivated and all that.
That one is. I think he's the agent that many people know to be. Yeah.
And then in South Africa they are doing quite well as well. There is the Q2 Sports. There is P Management, and there is a guy called Mike Makap. Also, you know, get to speak to
Mike Makap.
So I'm just basically following the journeys of those people, looking at their social media pages, their companies, and getting the inspiration. And they are there, One day it will give me satisfaction if I can fly out and watch my player making a debut in
One day.
of the leagues. And,
One day,
and
my guy.
stuff like that.
One day, my guy. And I hope everything happens the way we have planned it to be. By the way, you said it's Kaya
Sports consultant.
Kaya Sports Consultants.
Sports consultant.
If you're watching, you're a footballer, you want to be in the football space, there is Kaya Consultancy.
Yes,
got that
Kaya
right?
Sports Consultancy. Yes.
Kaya Sports Consultancy, headed by Happymore Chayire. Is the guy, the agent that we're looking up to now in Zim. You are a player, you want to be represented, please, we'll put maybe the details by the screen there so that you can easily contact, maybe open a branch also in Bulawayo so that people don't struggle. Because I know if you are in Kweru, you are all busy looking for players up north that side.
Definitely.
Make sure you open a branch this side.
Will be available.
So that maybe if someone wants to, they can also contact us at Dep 3 Events, then we also make something happen. By the way, thank you for coming to the show. It was a great interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It didn't feel like an interview, but it felt like a conversation, and I learned a lot. You opened up my mind. I now have an idea of how this agency thing works. Because I always thought, these people are now everywhere they're talking about agencies. It's never a good conversation. But I'm happy that you have really articulated it so well. That has been another interesting episode of Pass and Move. And by the way, as you heard from Happy, it was his first ever conversation, not an interview, first ever conversation in a media platform after working for a media platform. It has never been given the platform. You know how it is. We do it first year at Pass and Move Soccer Program. This is a podcast for everyone in the soccer field, whether you're a fan or an agent or an administrator, a coach or a player, whoever. Please, guys, remember to like, subscribe, and share, and we also engage. Maybe there is a question that you also want to ask OAP. Put it in the comment section. We'll maybe one day call him back to answer the questions. But otherwise, AP, thank you so much.